Hi, it's Josh Rubin with the Rubin team. Let's take a look. Kenny, it's Josh Rubin, and here we are with the live Rubin special coming to you from New York City, and my friend on the left coast, Kenny Maurer. Kenny, how you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm doing so good, Josh. Thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Just wanted to introduce you first and foremost. I know you turned it around. You were actually featured on stage this year at the summit with our good friend Tom Ferry. I know you're in the business. You're a solo agent out in Washington, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Olympia, Washington.
Okay, cool. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into the business and sort of your background.
Yeah, so my real estate license when I was 19, I was working as a full-time piano player actually at a casino, and that was really, really cool. It was kind of a dream of mine to be a full-time piano player. And I felt like I had kind of made it. But the casino that I worked at was 2 hours away from my house. And the shift that I had to work started at 8 o'clock at night and ended at midnight or 1 a.m. 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And so,
and then hold on one second. So then you need to drive home at midnight. So you're driving from midnight to 2 a.m. Just to get home. That's like, just for all my friends on the East Coast, you'll appreciate this. This is like driving from New York to Philly just for a job.
Yeah.
And that's how many nights a week?
It was 4 nights a week.
Damn.
That's
nights
dedication. And so what happened was I loved doing that. It was, I was playing music for money, which was, that's kind of every musician's dream. But what happened one night was it was cold and snowy and icy, and I was 5 minutes away from my house. I hit a sheet of black ice, and my car went straight into a ditch. And the thing that made me so upset about that was I was right next to my house, and I was like, it just made me so upset that I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm not going to drive 2 hours, to do this job anymore. It's just too much.
So did you have this conversation with yourself as you were sliding across the black ice, or once you were in the ditch?
It was after the fact. It was,
okay.
It was even after I was out of the ditch.
Yeah.
And, what I did after that was I wanted to figure out, what's a, high paying job that's fairly easy to get into, that you can get into at a young age. And I literally ran a Google search. I'm pretty sure I typed into Google like high paying jobs that are easy to get into. And real estate agent was one of the ones that came up. And so I started looking into that and ended up getting my real estate license.
Huh. Okay. And what's the process like out in Washington to actually get your license?
90-hour course and pass the test.
So it's basically, 2 weeks worth of classroom time, and then you schedule with the state to go down and actually take the test, and then you thoughts and prayers basically.
That's exactly what it is. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And how did you decide who to work with when you initially got your license?
I knew one real estate agent. It was the person that sold my parents their house. And so I called him and I said, hey, I just got my real estate license. What do I do now? And he said, well, you come work for me. And I said, okay, great. Turns out that wasn't the best fit for me. So I ended up going to another brokerage. And now I am at a new brokerage. I just recently joined Real.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they're out in Washington now?
They are, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, I've heard good things about them. Tell me about the sort of transition and, any difficulty with the shift from one brokerage to another?
I think that when you change brokerages, there's always going to be a little bit of bumpiness, if you will. Transferring clients, transferring listings, that's never really a fun, easy process. There's
Right.
usually some things that you run into. Um, but for me, like when I transferred, I was at Better Homes and Gardens before switching over to Real. And the thing for me is that I just connected really deeply with Real's mission, vision, and values.
Yeah.
And so I also really connect with a lot of the people in Real, in the brokerage.
Yep.
And so for me, I see a lot of opportunities to build new relationships with people, to dive in deeper to my business. They have a lot of tools that they offer, a lot of trainings. And so the excitement for me kind of drowns out the monotonous, things that come along with switching brokerages.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard good things about the sort of ecosystem, if you will, within
Hmm.
that company,
Yeah.
and it seems pretty exciting. What they're putting together. I think it's interesting to see what companies have sort of popped up in the wake of EXP,
Yeah.
and almost like they're taking the good from EXP and then applying it to their own models.
Which is
I,
really interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I know the people from Real, and all that they've done, and they've created this sort of essence of collaboration.
Hmm.
Whether or not you're in the same office or in the same market, same state, or a totally different market. Um,
Yeah.
so it's pretty interesting. Of
Yeah.
course, they're not public yet. I don't think, are they?
They are.
Oh, they are public.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Um, Something, and that's another thing that really gets me super excited is that I love to collaborate with other agents. And I think in the real estate industry, real estate's known to be kind of a cutthroat industry to be in. Um, Everybody wants to share their secret or save their secrets for themselves. Um, and everybody just wants to succeed on their own, and that's just not really who I am.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons that I switched over to Real too. Is I want to succeed with other people. If I end up at the top someday, I hope that I'm bringing some other people along with me.
Yeah,
And the places that I've been, that's certainly not the attitude. So
right. Cool. Um, and if it weren't real estate, what do you think you would do?
that's a great question. I'm an entrepreneur kind of through and through. I actually own a coffee shop outside of real estate. I'm still a professional musician, and so I do that. I'm working on an album right now, actually, and still play for weddings and all kinds of different events.
So you
So
haven't given up on the music altogether, huh?
I have not. And so if I wasn't doing real estate, I would still be doing something that's entrepreneurial, whether that's uh, running a coffee shop or uh, running some kind of business. I know I'd be doing that.
So tell me about the coffee shop, because that's interesting to me in that you got into that world. How did that happen?
So that was actually more my wife's goal. Back in 2019, I started this show called This Is Thurston, which was essentially my goal was to build a brand for myself. I'm a 19-year-old kid, just got my real estate license. Nobody really trusts a 19-year-old to sell their $1 million house, and I
Right.
had
Most
no
19-year-olds are, selling slime, cookies, or pot, right?
yeah, something like that. One of those things. Uh, and so I was trying to build credibility. And so the way that I did that was through this show called This Is Thurston, where I was highlighting different businesses and nonprofits in my community. And one of the people that I interviewed was the owner of a steakhouse.
Huh.
And this owner's wife was about to start a coffee shop. And so after we aired that show, they called me and were like, "Hey, could you guys do a highlight episode about my wife's new coffee shop that's going to be coming up?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be super cool. You know, me and it was my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife. I was like, me and my girlfriend really want to, you know, eventually start our own coffee shop. And so, you know, we'd love to talk to you guys about that." So we do the episode with them, and a year later, 2020 happens. COVID happens, and this steakhouse needed to figure out how to make some fast cash because they couldn't do takeout and stuff like that, curbside service or whatever else was happening in COVID.
Right.
So they called me and they were like, "Hey, we got to offload this coffee shop. You
Yeah.
were the first person that we thought of. Do you want it?" And so I kind of thought about it. It's the middle of COVID. And I'm like, I don't know if now is really the time to buy a coffee shop.
Yeah.
But we did it anyways. And it was a huge risk. The day that we closed on that sale, we showed up to the coffee shop. And this is in an area where the parking lot has 2,500 parking stalls. And we roll up.
So it's a big like shopping center or something.
It's a big office complex, and we're kind of on the outskirts of this huge office complex.
Okay.
And we roll up, and we're the only car in this huge area.
Yeah.
And
it's like a scene from Fargo or something.
Yeah, it's like it felt like a tumbleweed should like roll across the
And what time of day was this? And what day of the week?
Middle of the day, middle of the week. And
so like on a day that there should be a good number of cars in the lot. It wasn't like a holiday or
yeah. And so, I was super nervous. I was like, great, I just threw a bunch of money away in the trash. Horrible mistake is what I was thinking. And fast forward to today, we just opened our second shop in July, and our coffee shop's going to do over $1 million this year. And
in the same location.
Mm-hmm. So we're
why do you think? So hang on 1 second. So I gotta ask the question.
Yep.
Why wasn't there anyone there on that day that you rolled up for the first visit?
It was the middle of COVID.
Uh-huh.
And so all of these office workers were working from home. And so since then, we've they started coming back to work. A couple other businesses opened around us in the last 9 months. Year maybe, and now there's people that are rolling through.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess your timing was pretty good. Getting in when no one else wanted to.
That's right? Exactly what it was.
You've experienced this sort of hockey stick and interest and presumably foot traffic, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And just remind me your wife's name.
Her name is Mackenzie.
So and Mackenzie's running the coffee side of things, and you're kind of focused on the real estate.
For the most part, yeah. I still kind of oversee the coffee shop because it's fun for me. Entrepreneurship is just exciting and fun for me all the time. So it does not feel like work to me to run the coffee shop. So yeah.
Cool. Well, it's interesting, Kenny, because you touched on something right there, mm-hmm. which is that if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life, right?
Oh, exactly. That's so true.
Yeah. And so, the coffee kind of helps you, distract yourself from real estate. Real estate distracts you from the coffee. And, if you didn't love both of them, then that could be a recipe for disaster. Right. But in your case, you seem to really enjoy both. And so they sort of play off of one another. And the reason, Kenny, that I find this to be so interesting is because right there during COVID, I thought about opening up our own office. It would likely be an ancillary office of Douglas Elliman, but mm-hmm. if we opened up our own office, I envisioned it as being part coffee shop, part real estate brokerage, and even possibly a wine bar, and maybe even a listening bar. Because a lot of my friends out there know this already, but I am a recovering DJ. And when I say recovering,
come on.
And when I say recovering, when I was 14 years old, I had my first job in a rotisserie chicken stand in a farmer's market, and I had the very important job of cleaning the grills at the end of the day and cutting the chicken wings in thirds
Hmm. Hmm.
to be cooked. So I would do the before and the after, but the owner did the in between. But I met this guy in the adjoining stand. He was at a cheese stand, and he was the manager, and he was a DJ. And I thought, man, it would be cool to be a DJ. So I got with him and helped him at his gigs, carry in the equipment, set it up, break it down, carry the records, and he actually
Hmm.
got me a gig as a DJ. So I was then 15 years old, DJing in bars and clubs where they would hire this DJ company to bring people in. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got my sea legs about me, and I progressively became a DJ and moved up to New York, met other DJs,
Hmm.
including some pretty well known guys who are now big producers. And so, but there was one point when I would go out, and in a week I'd get all the latest releases, right? Hip hop and house primarily, and I would spend two, three, $400 on records in a week. And so I would refer to it as my addiction, which is to get this new music. And so I would get all these records and play them in the clubs and stuff. But the records are now like a part of my family. I can't get rid of them. So now I have
Hmm.
like 7,500 records at home. And so like you, I never really gave up on the music, but it's definitely taken a back seat.
Sure.
Um, but the idea of having like a coffee shop come real estate brokerage, the two kind of go hand in hand, and
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of people that are there for the coffee who are also interested in the real estate, and vice versa.
Yeah.
um, the
Absolutely.
real key though is having some sort of synchronicity between the two businesses. And so I think that's a unique concept that really very few people are doing.
Hmm.
um, but uh, where do you see sort of your future going,
Hmm.
specifically within real estate?
The next steps for me are to build out a team. I'm not
Hmm.
totally sure what that looks like yet. Not sure if we're gonna go the mega team route, or just go like the SEAL team, as a lot of us like to call it,
Yeah,
where you have a super tight knit group of people that work really really well together.
yeah,
That's definitely the future for real estate sales.
yeah,
I also want to start investing pretty heavily into real estate. Um, one of Over the last couple of months, I've met a lot of people from all over the country. A lot of that because I was on the Tom Ferry Success Summit
yeah,
stage, and that opened me up to a whole new group of people. Um, and so there's places all over the country and people all over the country that I could partner with, and I think that's a really exciting opportunity
yeah.
that I see. So yeah, I think over the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of growth for me in real estate.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, and it's an exciting time to be in the business. And obviously, you started off at a pretty unique time. Um, you got into the business. You were 19. So how many years ago was that?
That was almost 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah,
And so 4 years ago, so that was 2018,
yeah.
plus or minus.
Hmm.
And so then obviously you kind of had this career where you were plugging along, and you did a couple deals, and then you kind of you got the hang of it, and progressively did more. And
Hmm.
so year to date, how many transactions do you have closed or pending?
We are at 22 closed and pending for this year.
Great.
Uh, so I feel great about that. Last year I ended the year at 14.
Okay.
So
So you basically doubled your production in the
yeah,
span of 1 year. What
yeah.
what do you think has changed to enable you to do that?
Big thing for me is consistency. I think last year and the years before, when I first got into real estate, I was kind of running around with no direction. And I got into coaching, and I started to find a significant amount of direction. I learned that I don't need to have multiple CRMs. They all essentially do the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, there was a point in my career about 2 years ago where I was literally paying a monthly subscription fee to 5 different CRMs, and
Really?
I was using one of them, maybe using one
Partially.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't even in there every day, and
Yeah.
so I wasn't, any money that I was making, it was going out, in the same month. Um,
Huh.
so I wasn't turning profit. I wasn't using the tools that I had. Um, I just had no direction. So I had no plan. I wasn't working off of a business plan.
Right.
Uh, and I think in real estate, to really become successful, you have to have some kind of a business plan that you follow on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And that business plan has to have some kind of action steps that will progressively get you to your goal. And so that's what I put in place sometime last year,
Yeah.
and I've been following that consistently all of this year, and it's already, I'll double my business this year, and hope to do it again next year.
Yeah. So, given that you've been doing this now a few years, is there one transaction that stands out as being like the deal of your career for some unique reason?
There's one, yes. It was kind of a cool transaction. I My wife's grandfather he owned a bunch of vacant land, and he had um, this 6 parcel piece of land. Um, and he asked me if I knew of anybody that would be interested in doing in buying it, I guess. And did a little bit of research on it. Found out that we could put 4 units on each parcel,
Huh.
um, so a total of 24 units. And
And what type of acreage are we talking about, Kenny?
this was 1.5 acres,
So
not huge.
each lot was 1.5 acres.
The whole thing was 1.5 acres. It's
So
not a
across
lot.
the 6 parcels, it was
Correct.
1.5 acres, and you could put 4 units on each parcel.
Correct.
Okay.
So he asked if I could find somebody for this property, and I said, "Yeah, I'll certainly look around." Ended up finding a developer who specializes in small and mid-size apartments
Like
and
multifamily
multifamily.
developer. Mhm.
Yeah, and they bought all of them, built built fourplexes on each lot, and now they are my biggest client. And
The
now I'm
developer is your biggest client.
now that developer is my biggest client, and I'm working to find them apartment buildings, which is, that's huge. So
Right.
yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about how you found that developer.
I started calling around, honestly, and it was one person knew another person knew another person.
Right.
That's exactly how it started. It started as me calling a guy that I know who flips houses, and I said,
Hmm.
"Hey, I know you're into the real estate investing game. Would you be interested in buying these?" He said,
Hmm.
"No, but I know of a guy who might be." So I called a
Yeah.
guy that might be interested. "Hey,
Right.
so and so said that you might be interested in this. Is this something that you're interested in?" "No, but I know somebody who might be." And it was
Hmm.
just further down the line, and I found this guy, and turned into something a little bit bigger.
Yeah. So that's interesting because you took the initiative by having this baton essentially tossed at you,
Hmm.
and rather than saying, "Oh no, that's not really what I do. I sell single family houses. I
Yeah,
don't know what to do with this land."
yeah,
You took the initiative by both doing the research, finding out what the highest and best use was in the current market climate,
yeah.
realizing that there was a pretty significant demand for multifamily in your area,
Hmm.
and then not only did you find that information out, but then you sought out the person who would then capitalize on it, or the
Right.
entity, and you put the deal together. And then you took it one step further by not only putting the deal together, but holding on to the client
Yep.
and riding that wave, and you're still in the game with them. So
Yeah.
that's pretty remarkable when you
Oh,
stop to think about how you went from zero to hero, and you're still riding high.
appreciate that. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So but it's interesting that you can, even at this stage of your career, recognize the sort of the arc of the relationship and not just
Hmm.
be focused on the transaction, because so many people that I meet at this stage of their career are focused on the shiny penny,
Yep.
rather than the entire network,
Yep.
because the people that we meet, they represent on average 4 transactions over a lifetime,
Right.
right? They're probably going to do a buy, a sell, a subsequent sell, and a
Hmm.
buy,
Yep.
and then they'll do that 3 or 4 times. Some people will do it significantly more, depending on what it is they're buying and what their objectives are. At this point in my career, I've been in the business uh, almost 30 years, and I've done 6 and 7 transactions with some clients of mine.
Hmm.
And I'm actually right now working on 2 deals for the same client that are both buys, because they're doing a purchase, and then a friend of theirs is doing a consecutive transaction in the same building, because the first people are buying, and so the friend wants to be in the same building, so they're both buying at the same time.
Yep.
But what's interesting is that I'm actually advising the client not to buy this particular property, because I'm focused on the longevity of the relationship more so than just doing a single transaction. And it's interesting because when shit goes wrong, as it sometimes does, regardless of whether or not you are the source of the deal or the problem,
Hmm.
you're going to face the blame. And so I am trying to, um, I'm trying to get them into something that is a better fit longer term than to buy something that is certainly cute and a good fit aesthetically. But it's really about the advice, and then they're going to be unhappy.
Right.
And ultimately, I want them to be happy for a longer period of time, because that is when they come back to me. And we are on let's see, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. This will represent the fifth and sixth, which is ultimately going to lead to a seventh transaction with us.
Hmm.
So, um, it's just an interesting time to be in the business, and you have to be careful about how you treat these relationships.
Yeah.
You know, um, and so, I mean, given that you've been in the business 4 years, have you had the opportunity to do more than one transaction with anyone yet?
I have. In fact, this year is kind of the first year that I've got several past clients coming back. I had a little bit last year too, just because the first houses that I sold were 2018, 2019. And
Yep.
so last year, I had a few people that were like, okay, we've owned our house for, 2, 3 years, whatever. And they had significant equity just because of the way the market was last year.
Right.
So yeah, I've had quite a few past clients do transactions with me again. Also, one thing that I like to ask some of my previous people that I've worked with is if they've had any thoughts of getting into the investment game, whether
Right.
that's do they want to flip a house? If they want to flip a house, that could be 2 transactions for me right there. Sometimes,
Yeah.
a lot of times, when somebody's wanting to flip a house, that could be 3 transactions, because I might do something off market, find a seller, and then represent the buyer and the seller in that transaction. And then the
Sure.
buyer, fixes up the house and then becomes a seller again. So a lot of times that could be three transactions.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and then I've also helped people, buy a additional house for just a single family rental or get a multifamily of some kind for the same reasons. And I think there's a lot of transactions that could be had with past clients.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people in our world, Kenny, do nothing but past clients. They don't market, they don't hustle, they're not, following up with buyers who come to open houses. They'll do the open houses to sort of check off the box and make sure that they're doing everything they possibly can in order to give the property the exposure that it deserves. But I mean, I know people in the Tom Ferry ecosystem who absolutely kill it. We're talking about people who do $10 million and more in production, and they do open houses every Sunday, and they're busy open houses. They get this. They don't even have a sign-in mechanism at the open house. Literally. They're just like, oh yeah, welcome to the open house. It's crazy. It's going to sell in 3 days, and you better hurry up if you want to make an offer, get in touch. And they don't have an iPad. They don't have a sign-in sheet. They have no intention of following up with these people. So they are missing a literal gold mine of opportunity by simply not even giving these people the credit that they deserve, because most of the people that are walking through the door looking at listings today own something else, or they know someone who does. And so those people are going to get an impression when they walk through the door, not just of the home, but they're getting an impression of you as the agent. I have a client right now that I'm on my, first, second, third, I'm on my fourth transaction with this guy. How did I meet him? You're never going to believe this, but he didn't come to me through the postcards that I'm known for. He didn't come to me through for sale by owner and expired, a past client. He was a past client, but guess what? He was somebody else's past client. Because you know what happened? He came to one of my listings and he liked how I showed it. So he kept that in the back of his mind. And then what happened was he bought an apartment with that other broker. But then fast forward 5 years later, he called me up and said, hey, you might not remember me, but you had actually shown me an apartment that another person showed me. Like I was being represented by a buyer's agent. You were the seller's agent, but I was so impressed by you that I said, oh, that Josh Rubin, I'm going to have him sell my apartment the next time I turn around to sell. So he called me up 5 years later, and I sold that apartment for him. I found him another one. He actually had the audacity to list that apartment that I sold him with someone else. Okay. And you know what happened? That broker failed to sell the apartment.
Nice.
Okay?
Wow.
And then I reached out to him and I said, hey, Rich, I see that you listed the apartment. Congratulations. Sorry you didn't give me the shot, but let me know if there's anything I can do. And he called me up and said, hey, Josh, you know what? That person didn't sell the apartment. And so, let's get this one sold. I said, okay, no problem. I said, let's do it. We put it on the market, and, it wasn't a straight line. It wasn't like a slam dunk where we sold it the first weekend. It took an incredible amount of patience, but we got the apartment sold. And we turned around, and now he's looking for another apartment. So, it's funny, the circuitous path that a lot of these things take, right?
Yeah. It reminds me, if you're not calling your past clients, somebody else is. That's something that Tom says all the time. And it's like,
and he's right.
Yeah.
So you got to have a program set up that you're in front of these people directly, one-on-one. I'm not talking about dripping on them. I'm not talking about sending them bullshit emails about hop in the summer, hop in the spring, come look at my open houses. Here's some market data. I'm telling you that you got to be in touch with these people one-on-one. Saying, hey, Kenny, I was thinking of you and wanted to reach out. And hey, did you see the Seahawks game? Did you see, the new quarterback?
Right.
And, he went from broken jaw on the floor at the hands of one of his teammates. And now Geno Smith is at the top of his game. And, he's running just like Russell used to. And, so anyway, I mean, the bottom line is you really have to be in front of these people, and you really
Mhm.
have to show that you care.
Right.
And it's not
Exactly.
just about transactions, and it's not just about your next deal, but it's really about a lifetime long relationship.
Yep.
And there's value there.
Mhm.
So, um, but you said you're putting out an album. What kind of album is
It's actually a country album that I'm producing with a buddy of mine.
it?
Uh,
Uh-huh.
he's me and him have been friends since middle school, and he's a great country singer songwriter. And he asked me to come on board and play piano for his upcoming record, and I said,
Wow.
of course, I'll do that. And
Yeah.
yeah, we should be finishing that up this month, and then we'll be releasing it probably later this year or early next year.
So you're gonna do like an MC Hammer country thing, like a self like a but like I'm talking because if anybody knows about music, they know that MC Hammer
Yeah.
did not get signed.
Right.
He was actually selling albums out of the trunk of
Yep.
his car.
Hmm.
So are you thinking about like doing a self published kind of thing or?
I'm not totally sure how we're gonna go about that part. We have a producer who's way better at that kind of stuff than we are. Our producer was the lead guitarist for the TV show Glee, which was a popular show like 10 years ago on Fox. And then he's also done like a bunch of other, you know, uh, music for TV shows and movies and things like that. And so we're kind of giving that job to him. Like
Okay.
whatever you think is best for us to get the music out there, we'll do it. But yeah, that's definitely not my expertise.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kenny, for a brand new agent, let's say, the Kenny of 2018,
Hmm.
how would you suggest that, with the 4 years of experience that you have, how would you suggest they set up their day?
I think setting your morning up for success is probably one of the best things best pieces of advice that I ever got. So
Yeah.
in the morning, doing something that energizes you and makes you feel good, whether that's going to the gym, saying affirmations, gratitudes, spending time in prayer, reading a book, all of those things. Set your day up for success, and then follow some kind if I'm talking to a new agent directly, I would say follow some kind of a routine of prospecting. I would
Yeah.
suggest 2 to 4 hours a day of prospecting until you get to a point where your appointments are kind of taking over and you can back that off a little bit. um, but I think a new agent especially, they need to be making phone calls not only for the potential to get new business, but also just for the potential to learn.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to learn what to actually say on the phone, um, and it's important. I would suggest calling for sale by owners and expired listings to know why are they doing. For sale by owner, why are they listing without an agent, and for an expired, what happened uh, in your experience that was negative. What
Right.
happened? Why didn't the house sell? What did the agent do? What did the agent not do? Whether
Right.
you get business from that or not, you will get
Yeah.
business from it if you do it. But even if you don't get business, you'll learn something, and I think that's a crucial piece of advice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, structure is really key for a new agent. It's so easy to, sit at home and watch Judge Judy. But
Hmm.
I remember when I first got into the business, it was all about getting into the office as early as possible because that's when those cherry inquiries were coming because this was pre-internet, believe it or not, back in the dark ages.
Yep.
And so everything would come in from newspaper ads. And so we would know the days that the newspaper dropped because it was all about the Sunday Times and what they call here in New York City. It was a free paper called the Village Voice.
Hmm.
And the Village Voice would come out on Tuesday night. So Wednesday morning, you'd get all of the cherry inquiries of all the people who really needed to find a place. And the Sunday Times actually dropped for home delivery customers, they would get the real estate section for Sunday on Saturday. So, that reminds me of a story from Think and Grow Rich, which is a classic book. And the story is of a guy who goes to a flea market and he finds a lantern. And he brings this, beautiful golden lantern home that's clearly tarnished, dented, and dirty. And he starts cleaning it off with a rag, and he's, has a solvent, and he's cleaning it up, and he gets the thing shined up. And all of a sudden, poof, there's a genie in front of him. And the genie says, Kenny, I am your genie. And it is my role to give you one wish and only one wish. And it turns out that the gentleman who had purchased the lantern at the flea market was a stock trader back in the 1920s. And he said, well, if I could see tomorrow's stock tables today, that would be my wish. So the genie says, okay, so you want to see tomorrow's stock tables that were in the newspaper back then today? He says, yes. He says, okay, that's your one wish. Poof. And he gets tomorrow's newspaper today. The genie is gone, and the lantern's sitting on the floor. And the guy picks it up. He sees the date on the paper. He can't believe his eyes. And it's tomorrow's stock tables, exactly what he wished for. He opens it up. He starts circling stocks. He calls a stockbroker. He makes all these purchases. And then after he gets the orders in, he starts thumbing through the newspaper to see if there's anything interesting in tomorrow's news that happened today. And he gets to the obituaries, and he starts thumbing through the obituaries, and he goes down the list alphabetically, and wouldn't you know it, there is his name. So, the bottom line is you got to stay plugged in and focused on the present. It's not about yesterday. It's not about tomorrow, but it's what you can do today and make the most of it.
Yeah, I love that.
So Kenny, I appreciate your time, and this has been fantastic. And obviously you have a bright future, whether it's music, coffee, or real estate. I think you are onto something.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you, Josh. This was awesome, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
You bet, Kenny, and I'll speak to you soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, brother. Hi, it's Josh Rubin with the Rubin team. Let's take a look.